Everybody's got a price. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing the Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support your favorite creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn their backs on people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics, it's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today, download Rumble Wallet now, and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. Bam, nailed it. Easy, easy, easy. How much do you think I made on that, Dome? Let's take a look. $3.54. We'll take it. Now, to Dome enemy number 2, Jamie Raskin.
Go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Rocco says, Mr. Rotella, let me get this straight. There was a child sex ring going on Epstein Island, and only one person went to jail. Well, that's what they're telling us, Rocco.
Hello, everybody. I've just gotten back from this Department of Justice satellite office, a seemingly otherwise desolate facility where they've set up some offices and some computers for us to go and review the Epstein files. I think there were 4 computers in the room that I was in. I was at one of the computers. Now, we're there because the members of the Judiciary Committee are very concerned because the most emphatic provision in the Epstein Files Transparency Act was that...
Oh my God, can someone stop mopping or using the freaking buffer on the floor back there?
None of the survivors' privacy be compromised in any way. And we wanted to make sure that their names would be redacted and all personal identifying information would be redacted. But there are hundreds and hundreds of
The
pages
beeping is driving me crazy.
in the Epstein files that were...
Finno's back there buffing the floor. Finno, keep it down.
recently released where identifying information about victims is right there, including people's names. So that was a dramatic departure from the demands of the statute. But then conversely, we didn't want to see any redactions of the names of co-conspirators, accomplices, enablers.
He looks a little shook,
abusers,
actually.
Rapists, simply to spare them potential embarrassment.
Has Raskin just seen the truth for the first time in his entire life?
Political sensitivity or disgrace of some kind. And yet, nonetheless, the Epstein file documents that were released are filled with redactions of names and information about people who clearly are not victims and may fall into that other category. So I went over there and I was able to determine, at least I believe, that there were tons of completely unnecessary...
Raskin not talking with the confidence that Raskin, well, the unnecessary confidence, mind you, but not talking with the unnecessary confidence that Raskin usually talks with.
Redactions, in addition to the failure to redact the names of victims, and so that's troubling to us.
Did you see the names of any potential co-conspirators that were redacted?
Well, I saw the names of lots of people who were redacted for mysterious or baffling or inscrutable reasons.
Are any of them well-known individuals?
For example, Mr. Wexner, his name was redacted from a government document. And I couldn't understand the logic of that. He was not a victim.
Whoa.
And his name has appeared other places. Now, the Department of Justice has not sent forth its so-called privilege log. So it's not explained yet why there might be certain redactions that have been made.
Elite number Taz Pache says he's just not the same without his do-rag.
I saw one document which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, which was the forward of an email that he had received from some of his lawyers, giving an account of a conversation between Epstein lawyers and Trump lawyers and others about what had taken place during that 2009 period. It was during the period of
He
the
does seem spooked, Ron. I'm with you 100%.
And Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave, and this was at least one report that appears to contradict it.
What did you see specific to President Trump or President Clinton, and were there specific redactions to them?
Well, I just gave an example of one redaction related to President Trump. I did not see any redactions related to President Clinton.
What was
I mean, remember,
done on this?
Well, I don't. Here's the thing: the Department of Justice is under orders from Congress to release the entire Epstein file. They released 3.5 million documents, and they've withheld 3 million documents. So about half of all the documents have not been released yet. Of the 3.5 million documents that have been released, I probably had the opportunity to review maybe 30 or 40 of them. Okay, so this is going to be an extremely time-consuming and painstaking process.
We'll get to it, Bubby.
Attorney General and the Department of Justice have said that this process was something that was completed by them back in July. These materials could have been released long ago, but they're just being released now. And if every member of Congress who voted for the discharge petition, if all 217 of us spent every waking hour over at the Department of Justice, it would still take us months to get through
Okay,
all
do
of
it.
those documents. And there are only
Let's get
4
started.
computers now, so they would certainly need to get a couple hundred more computers for all of the members. But the point is that there is no way before Attorney General Bondi arrives on Wednesday that we're going to have the opportunity to go through every redaction in order to ask thorough questions.
Hearing with Pam Bondi on Wednesday. I feel as much watched Omen, everybody. Make sure you're here Wednesday night. We will bring that hearing to you in full.
Do you think that's the connection that they held up releasing?
No Echo Dome.
Everybody wouldn't be as thoroughly prepared for her testimony Wednesday?
No, I think that the Department of Justice has been in a cover-up mode for many months and has been trying to sweep the entire thing under the rug. And the more deeply that I get into it, because obviously our colleagues on the Oversight Committee have taken the lead, but judiciary plays a very important role because we oversee the Department of Justice. But the more that I've gotten into it, the more I believe that the survivors here, the victims who are now active citizens for justice.
Okay, we're moving on. I want to watch some British politics tonight. So
Sorry
let's
to keep
get
you guys out here that long.
these last guys, Massie and Ro Khanna.
Well, that was an interesting experience.
It was.
The user interface is a little clunky at first, but what I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files. So that's the first thing that I saw. It took some digging to find them. Then I'll let you talk about what you saw.
Well, and we discussed that. I mean, there are 6 men, some of them with their photographs that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted. And Thomas discovered it through his MIT logic with some of the searches. But, you know, that's really concerning. I think there are 2 other points. One is some of the internet concern about some of the more sensational emails. I mean, I do think it's important to recognize that some of the senders on that are women, and so some of the redactions may be appropriate, some may not be appropriate. We need to look at that. But just because
Women are
there's an
asking
email
about
out
the torture
out
video
there, doesn't mean that there's necessarily an improper redaction. The bigger concern is these 6 individuals. I will say that the staff was very professional in allowing us to do the searches. Our bigger concern is that there's still a lot that's redacted. Even in what we're seeing redacted versions. I thought we were supposed to see the unredacted.
How can they? What the fuck is going on? How can you redact things from members of Congress that are going there to see things that are not redacted?
Redacted versions. And that's because the documents produced to justice from the FBI, from the grand jury, was redacted when they got it. So we kept doing the searches for the unredacted information. It's the identical redactions that they have. Now, I don't think that's nefarious on the career attorneys that were reviewing it, but they obviously haven't gotten the production because our law says that the FBI and the original grand jury needs to be unredacted.
Right. The U.S. attorneys and the FBI are compelled, as well as the DOJ, and the DOJ was responsible for this document production, and they just produced documents that have been given to them from the FBI, the 302 forms, for instance, which need to be unredacted. There was one other thing that definitely needs to be addressed. Some of these files have been taken down, like the DOJ produced them, and for some reason they took them down. Maybe they decided that victims' names were in there and that they needed further redactions. But those documents not only haven't been put back up on the site with the appropriate redactions, they were not available to us to search. As far as I could tell, we couldn't search the documents that had been taken off the internet.
Can you share with us the name of the 6 men that you identified?
I probably should do that from the floor or in a committee hearing.
And look, they should be releasing these documents. We have many avenues where we can compel that legally. Maybe they've done it out of oversight.
I don't think that they're covered by law to be able to just say it outside of the floor. But if they bring those names up on the floor, I think that they're covered by some kind of law that they're able to do that.
No, I don't believe that. But, you know, they should be releasing those documents. And our hope is to get them to do that. And then in some of the redactions, they need to be very careful in whether that was a survivor or not. Just because, for example, someone is female doesn't necessarily mean they're survivors. And it seemed like they blanket redacted anyone who was a female from my review.
Yeah, I would like to give the DOJ a chance
That's
to say
nuts.
they made a mistake and over-redacted and let them unredact those men's names. That would probably be the best way to do
This
it.
look is much better, Rocco.
The redactions, you said that there are a lot of the documents, some of what you saw in there had redactions. How much new information then did you see that was unredacted, or did it look pretty similar to what we've seen publicly?
I mean, what we're after is the men who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to. We want those names published. We're not out to embarrass people. And the problem is we went in there hoping to see that in 302 forms. What we found out is those 302 forms were redacted before they got to the DOJ. So,
what the
but
fuck?
Our legislation
Who's redacting the redactions?
The FBI, which is the agency that produced those 302 forms, to also produce these documents. The Attorney General is ultimately responsible for that production, so that's why we're here at the DOJ to view these files. But there needs to be more information given in those 302s. So I was disappointed we didn't find that. But it's also clear, just sort of as a checking their homework, that they need to do a little more homework. There are 6 men. We went in there for 2 hours. There's millions of files, right? And in a couple of hours, we found 6 men whose names have been redacted, who are implicated in the way that the files are presented.
Thank you, Sharon's here. We have footage from Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition today. You know what? I think we go to that right now. While we're answering that, let's go to this right now. This is how she pled the fifth today.
This is David Marcus, and I just wanted to introduce her and make a brief statement. So members of the committee, on my advice, Ghislaine Maxwell will respectfully invoke her Fifth Amendment right to silence and decline to answer questions today, even though she would very much like to answer your questions. She must remain silent because Ms. Maxwell has a habeas petition currently pending that demonstrates her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial. For example, jurors lied during voir dire to secure seats on the jury, and the government promised immunity and then broke that promise. Newly discovered documents now demonstrate these facts conclusively. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide a complete account, and some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, have you ever coerced, directed, or otherwise instructed any young woman or girl to provide sexual favors to Mr. Epstein or any other individual?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Something is not right here.
After what you saw today?
Need to do a little more work. And I would like, we'll see her at the Judiciary Committee here in a couple days.
At the very least, these 6 men, maybe she can make public. We're happy to provide the information to them, and they should do that. Look, there's some of the effort, because there were a lot of career attorneys on there. There's some redactions that were appropriate, some, for protect the survivors. And some of the most sensational.
Something is not right here, and the way that the Trump administration has handled this situation makes me very uncomfortable. 6 months ago, Trump tells us that it's a hoax. 6 months ago, Trump tells us that anyone that wants to know about this stuff, he does not want our support anymore. I'm very uneasy in this moment, chat. How do you feel, chat? I'd love to hear what the chat feels. Other than trust the plan, I'd love to know what the chat feels. And now that Ghislaine Maxwell is saying that Trump and Bill Clinton did nothing wrong, we know for sure one of them definitely did.
Out on the internet, there may have been appropriate redaction. So, for Thomas and me, it's always been about the facts. And our biggest concern is what was redacted before it even came to the Justice Department. I mean, the reality is that the most important things, the 302 files and some of the information on the prosecution memos, it's unclear that those redactions
The best is yet
here
to come.
You're right, AC. The best is yet to come now that you're here, Ballyho.
We saw a lot of files that already were redacted. And then,
It
of
stinks,
course,
Lutsky.
they have been protecting some of these men. Maybe it was not intentionally, but the law is very clear. They need to comply with the law.
And finally, the documents that they put up and decided for one reason or another they had to take back down, I was hoping to see those here. They didn't appear to be in the database that we were able to search. Those ostensibly are wholly redacted files now. We know they exist. They published them for a brief period of time and pulled them back. They need to answer to us as to do they intend to redact those files and put them back up and put them in the database so that we can search them and see if it was appropriate to take them back down from the website.
Are these men U.S. citizens? What fields do they work in? Is it finance? Is it political?
At least one is a U.S. citizen. At least one is a foreigner. And the other 3 or 4 have names. I'm not sure if they're foreign or U.S.
In which field do they work in? Is it finance, banking?
Well, for me, Rocco, it's not just the Slick Willie in the hot tub pics. It's Ghislaine Maxwell at freaking Chelsea's wedding at the White House. It's Epstein visiting the White House how many times? At least, I think at least over 10. I don't know the exact number, but I definitely want to say at least over 10. So it's weird, man.
Political.
One is pretty high up in the foreign government.
And some are, they're, one of the others is a pretty prominent individual. But I think that the point is that these 6 are just what we found in 2 hours of a review of the files that aren't redacted. The broader
This
issue
is
is
going to be a shit show, and I'm here for it.
Are redacted in the first place. And until that becomes unredacted, the main things that they're sending to the career attorneys to review, I don't think we're going to have full compliance with the law or get to the question that most Americans want to know. Who were the rich and powerful people who went to this island? Did they rape underage girls? Did they know that underage girls were being paraded around? And after
you know what? Yeah, we don't want any of that to happen. But what did they do by blackmailing these high-powered people? That's what I want to know. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We can't be talking about this surface level here, Massie and Ro Khanna. I'm grateful for what these gentlemen are doing. I want this information out there. It's great content. I've been looking for this information for half of my life, but we gotta think bigger than just these dudes diddle around with some underage kids. Yes, that is horrible, but what else did that lead to? Who is controlling what?
Seeing this, I don't blame the U.S. attorneys, the assistant U.S. attorneys reviewing it. If they're reviewing redacted material, what are they supposed to do? But they're getting, it seems
Am
like
I
material
wrong,
that's
chat?
already been
Let me know
redacted.
if I'm wrong. I do not feel wrong.
He said that he saw President Trump's name redacted. He saw Lee Wexner's name redacted. Did you see President Trump's name redacted, Lee Wexner's name redacted? Can you share anything about that?
I didn't put Donald Trump in the search engine, so I couldn't tell you.
Why not?
Email about the little girl who was, quote, a little naughty.
I did, and that was a woman that wrote that, and so it may be proper to redact it, and it may not be. I don't know. It seems like
of course
part of their
there's
algorithm
women
for redaction was just to redact every woman in there.
Oh my
pretty
God,
much.
that's so stupid.
So we can't parse if the person who sent that was a victim or not.
Look, none of this is designed to be
Thanks,
a witch
Woke.
hunt. If just because someone may be in the
Woke Eponymous says you're better at this than betting on sports, sir.
files doesn't mean that they're
I wish I
guilty.
could bet on
But
this.
there are very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island, or showed up to the ranch, or showed up to the home, knowing underage girls.
I have
were
a
being
feeling.
paraded around.
I
And
also have a feeling that the more and more we get into this, for at least the next 6 months, stuff that I say, the dome is not going to like. So I'm getting that feeling right now too.
and some of the sickening stuff in there about the violence. And what we want to do is have the investigation to get to
But
those
just like
people
COVID,
that
we have
answer
to
those
talk about what
questions.
we see.
Not to say that every
and what we
internet
feel
rumor about some
and
email
what we believe
is going to be true. And like I said, in some of the cases, the redactions may have been appropriate. But for Thomas and me, it's never been about getting Donald Trump or getting Bill Clinton or
What's up, UFO Johnny
scoring
Ballyho?
political points or trying to destroy people's reputations. It's about actually getting justice for these survivors.
Do either of you plan to read the 6 names on the House floor?
I think we need to give the DOJ a chance to go back through and correct their mistakes.
How long do they have to do that? How long do they have to unredact these files?
They're already breaking the law. Look, they're way past the deadline. And the reason they gave for taking so much time is so they wouldn't release victims' information. But in fact,
I agree, Ron.
they've released all kinds of victims' information. So the problem
Glad
here is
you're
not
on the weird
deadline.
train, Ron.
The problem is they need to go back. They need to themselves check their own homework or have somebody else check it. And as Ro said, they need to go to the U.S. attorneys and the FBI, who are compelled by the legislation directly to produce that material to them unredacted.
And I think, look, we could have brought contempt or impeachment weeks ago.
Glad you're on the
but
weird
our
train,
interest
Ronnie.
is in actually getting the information out. And as a result of the strategy we've been pursuing, this is the largest release of the Epstein files in history. Now, it's not enough, but it has exposed people in the highest levels in technology, in finance, in real estate.
I'm with you, Rocco,
It has
100%.
exposed the establishment and monarchies in other countries. So our push is how do we expose this and have accountability, not how do we score political points or have retribution.
Well, I want retribution.
Well, he's on the committee.
We'll see Wednesday.
Wednesday's going to be a hot hearing.
It seems that they were made by the FBI or they were made by attorneys in the grand jury, but the Justice Department, it seems, got some of these documents already redacted. Our law was very clear. Unless something was classified, it required it to be unredacted.
Thank you, Kara Ballyho.
And
Appreciate
they
that,
have
miss.
not complied with that law. And that law needs to be complied with because that's where a lot of the information is, especially about the powerful people in this country and what their involvement was. And, you know, their involvement could have been that they were showing up at this island knowing that there was pedophilia taking place. Their involvement could have been that they were actually engaged in
Ballyho, just wondering.
Raping underage girls or knowing that underage girls were being raped. We won't know until we see those files.
What information Ghislaine Maxwell and her lawyers statement say?
6 men were implicated in Epstein's crimes.
It's a list of 20. You can go.
Ballyho
you can actually,
Voltronic, welcome in.
Direct you to the unredacted or the redacted file. It's a list of 20 individuals. 3 or 4, Maxwell and Epstein are on the list, and maybe 1 or 2 other people, and everybody else is redacted. And
What the
their
fuck?
names are redacted, but it also includes 20 pictures, 20 photographs. And they're sort of mugshots. They're not the best pictures. I'm not sure if they were mugshots or not, but there are at least 3 or 4 males in the photographs. I couldn't verify by looking at their names because they have foreign names. I couldn't verify by looking at their names that they were male until I went and looked at the photographs. By the way, in the document I'm directing you to, the photographs are redacted and their names are redacted. There is no reason in our legislation that allows them to redact the names of those men, as far as I can tell.
Unless there are any male survivors, which seems hard to believe given this issue. But and all the women that are redacted, it's unclear if they were just actual survivors, in which case they did the appropriate thing, or whether they just, as Thomas said, had an algorithm to take out any woman's name.
There's also hold on a second. There's also an FBI form that lists people who are conspirators, and one of those is a male. It's like on an FBI form. They've redacted his picture and his name on that form where they were, I guess, considering an indictment or indicting or something. I could also, I don't have the number in front of me, but I could direct you. It's a 3-page EFTA file.
Was this were authorities?
I'm not sure if they're mugshots.
Were authorities investigating these individuals, or like?
In one instance, it was, and in the other instance, it seemed to be.
I've got to go. I'll let Thomas.
No, I got to go too.
All right.
One question. One last question for you, Congressman Khanna. Congressman Massie has called for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to face potentially some accountability for the connection that he has in these files. Do you support that call?
Absolutely. Look at what's happening in Britain. You have a left government.
Britain's doing well with this.
No, Keir Starmer. I was excited.
The first thing Britain has done well with something in the last 20 years.
21. And yet I believe he needs to be held accountable with what's happened with Mendelssohn. You have the British monarchy having to answer questions. I mean, the King of England is putting out statements. And yet in our country, we have not had that reckoning. People in power, whether they're in government, whether they're in finance, whether they're in technology, if they have been implicated in the files in morally embarrassing ways and in ways that shock the conscience, should be held accountable. And it should be regardless of party.
So you're calling for Howard Lutnick to resign?
I believe that Lutnick, at the very least, needs to be brought before Congress. I think, based on the evidence,
I'd love to see that questioning. Bring Howard Lutnick in front of Congress, 100%.
People say, "Oh, you're just a Democrat saying that." No, I mean, look at what he is, how much influence he had with Epstein, and he wasn't transparent about it.
He was not.
It's not about Lutnick.
He lied to the dome's face. He lied to the dome's face when we watched that podcast.
Not about any particular person. In this country, we have to make a decision. Are we going to allow rich and powerful people who were friends and no problem doing business and showing up with a pedophile who was raping underage girls? Are we just going to allow them to skate? Or like other countries, are we going to have elite accountability and have accountability for the people who did that? Most Americans believe we need accountability.
Not to mention, he happened to not show up to work on 9/11.
No, I didn't see him on that.
The best is yet to come.
Welcome in, BTT. The best is yet to come now that you're here. Weird times ahead, Dome. And you know what the Dome strives in? We strive and we thrive in weird times. When we get back, we're going across the pond. Nigel Farage gave a speech. He's putting the pressure on Keir Starmer, and I'm here for it. We'll be right back after this.